Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Okay, folks, welcome back to this week's episode of The Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell. And if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you've come to the right place. We've got a great show for you today, and I know that you're going to love it. What do we have? Well, first we've got Inside Skip's Brain, and then we've got Focus on the News, and then in segments 2 and 3, we have our friends from Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners. We'll be speaking with Brady Scheckinger and Bob Radowski, all about some of the pro-gun bills that are in the Michigan State Legislature and their chances of passing and what they all mean. I know you're all interested in that. And then in segment 4, we will, of course, do the wrap-up. But first, what is going on inside my brain? What am I thinking? What am I doing? What is my life all about? What is my purpose? What is my purpose in life? Well, this week has been incredibly busy. This was opening day of the Deer Gun Opener in Michigan, of course, November 15th. And, of course, I went out there and I froze my stinking butt off. It was wet, it was cold, it was miserable, and I just had a wonderful time. I brought out some chopped ham and cheese sandwiches with me out there. And I was up in my tree stand, and I just fought to keep warm, and I ate my sandwiches. I didn't have Spam. That's my only regret. I didn't bring any Spam sandwiches with mayonnaise, little salt and pepper, and cheese on opening day. I usually do that. I don't know what I was thinking, but I just didn't prepare properly, and I think that's maybe why I didn't see any deer that day. Couldn't have been the rain or the cold. I didn't have the right sandwich. But I have since rectified that, and we'll be shooting more deer. Already this year, I have gotten 3 with my crossbow. I got a nice big doe opening week. Then I shot a 3-point by mistake. I didn't even know it was a buck, but I shot that. And then I got a 7-point. So no more bucks for me this year, but I would like to shoot one more nice big fat doe, and that will fill up my freezer. And I also have to take my little ones out. You know, my 6-year-old Amethyst, she's been asking me, Daddy, can I go deer hunting with you? And if you've got small children or ever had small children and you're a hunter, you understand that if you take small children out in the woods with you, you're not going to see any deer. You're just not going to do it. I mean, sometimes you will if you got the right setup, but you know, you got to take them anyways. I mean, this is your one time to bond with your kids, to get them in love with hunting and wildlife and the outdoors. And if you don't do it, some other jerk's going to get them hooked on video games. So I went ahead and I set up one of those ground blinds, fairly sturdy ground blind. And inside I've got a nice little propane heater with 2 folding chairs, and it's just sitting on the edge of the swamp. I'd say the chances of me and my daughter seeing a deer are, I don't know, 1 in 10,000. But we'll see. Maybe she'll surprise me and she'll be quiet. Regardless, we will have a good time, and that's what it's really all about. I want to give her memories that she can remember for the rest of her days, and stories that she can tell her kids and just pass it on to them, because it's a heritage. It's what we're building together. My primary job in life as a father is to build wonderful, sweet memories for all of my children, and that's what I strive to do. Okay, in the news, well, all over the news, there's been all about that latest church shooting. It's just been going crazy. Well, as you know, I co-host Front Lines of Freedom, That's the number one military talk show in the country. We're on 137 stations nationwide. So if you want to catch that, go to frontlinesoffreedom.com and you can get even more Skip Coryell. But I was filling in for the Colonel Denny Gillum. He's a retired Army Ranger. And he's the primary host, but he was on vacation. So when the Colonel's away, the non-coms will play. And that's exactly what I did while he was gone. I did the whole 2-hour show by myself. That will be airing this weekend. So I believe Sunday from 8 to 10 p.m. in Wood Radio in Grand Rapids, and it's also on WKZO. I think it's on a Battle Creek station and a Lansing station as well. So I think we're on about 12 different Michigan stations. So go to frontlinesoffreedom.com and you can see where we are airing. I think you'll like it. We talked about church security, church safety. We talked about active killers in churches and the psychology of it all. Had some good interviews, and I think you're going to like that, and maybe even you'll learn something. One thing that I did was I did a review and comment on the news for that, and it was just a little 5-minute segment. But I want to go ahead and read that to you. And basically, it's about heroes. It's about the good guys in this terrible story. Here we go. The First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs, Texas, is a lot like my own hometown where I grew up and still live. 40 years ago, my hometown boasted just a few hundred people, and today it hasn't grown much, if at all. The people here have the same last names they did a few generations ago. We have a gas station, a hardware store, a post office, a public school with a few hundred kids from K through 12. In 1987, our football team won the Class D state championship, but nothing much since then. This is a small, lazy little town, and nothing much happens out of the ordinary, and quite frankly, that's how we like it here. We just want to get up in the morning, brush our teeth, shower and shave, and head off to work so we can support our families. That's pretty much the way it is all over rural America. The heartland is filled with hard-working Americans who just want to raise their kids, work hard, and try to get a little bit ahead in life before they die and pass it all on to their kids. But on Sunday, November 5th, at around 11 a.m., that small-town dream was shattered by a man named... Well, hold on here a minute. I'm not going to say his name out loud, because he was a despicable person, and his name should be banned from common usage in all civilized circles. We'll just call him He Who Shall Not Be Named. But for the sake of brevity and ease of conversation, we'll shorten it down to the devil. So this devil, he walks up to the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs and starts firing rounds from outside the church. He kills a few people before entering. He's carrying a Ruger AR-type semi-automatic rifle and a handgun. While inside the church, he fires off 15 30-round magazines. There are about 60 people inside from the ages of infancy on up to 77 years old. The devil is wearing all black, a tactical vest, and body armor. He is very angry, and he yells out obscenities, saying that everyone must die. And then he begins his executions. People are terrified, and they throw themselves onto the floor and try to hide under the pews. But the devil moves calmly and methodically up and down the aisle, shooting into hiding bodies. And it makes no difference if they're babies, children, women or men, young or old. The devil is an equal opportunity destroyer. He kills as many as he can. A few successfully play dead, but most are either killed or wounded. After exhausting one 30-round magazine, he reloads and continues to fire. He reloads a total of 14 times while inside the church. It takes this devil 10 minutes to kill 26 innocent people and wound over 20 more. The devil then leaves the church, where he's met by a plumber, a man named Stephen Williford, who lives just down the road from the church. Stephen has lived in this small town all his life. He's a quiet, unassuming man who doesn't enjoy the limelight. But today, he is about to become famous, and every home in America will know his name. Stephen engages in a rifle battle with a vicious killer, wounding him twice and sending him fleeing. This quiet man is a former NRA instructor, a father, and a husband. He's just a normal guy, much like you and I. Stephen didn't expect his town to be attacked by a deranged madman where dozens would die. He never thought he'd have to engage in a life-or-death gunfight, but that's exactly what happened. Stephen Willeford is an American hero, a good guy with a gun who stopped a bad guy with a gun. One of the many things about heroes is this: until they are thrust into heroic circumstances, they have no idea that they're heroes. There are a lot of potential heroes out there all across America. You probably know some of them. Maybe you are one of them. What does it take to be a hero? In Stephen's case, it was nothing more than courage and a skill set. He knew how to shoot, he owned a gun, and he had the guts to attack a deadly mass killer. I listened to a 1-hour interview between Stephen and the NRA. I was impressed. He doesn't consider himself a hero. He was just a man who did what he had to do, nothing more and nothing less. And now that all the hubbub is over, he just wants to get back to his quiet life in small-town America and to heal and help his neighbors heal with the trauma and get on with their lives. I don't blame him. Obscurity in small-town America is a pretty good life. But here's what I want you to take away from this. It's quite possible that you will be called upon by the fates of life to either put up or shut up. Do you have what it takes to be a hero? Do you have the skill set? Do you have the courage? We are all just a heartbeat away from eternity. Stephen Willeford was tested and found equal to the task. He was a hero, a true American hero, and the country needs more people just like him. Folks, that's the positive side. The negative side is you're not safe in your church anymore. You never were. You just had the illusion of safety. And that's the problem with so many people in America. They don't want to be safe. They just want to feel safe. It doesn't take much to feel safe. All you have to do is put on a pair of blinders and deny reality. Or you can go ahead and buy a gun, get a concealed pistol license, check off those 2 boxes, and then you can say, gosh, I'm safe now, which of course is a lie. You have the illusion of safety. Owning a gun doesn't make you safe any more than owning a guitar makes you a rock star. You have to get training. You have to get the skill set. You have to have the warrior mindset, all of those things. I think America is finally starting to wake up. I hope so. I really hope so. All right, folks, that's about all we have for this segment. We're running out of time here. But while we're away, go ahead and check out our sponsors, Elite Firearms and Training out of Middleville, Michigan, and then Firearms Legal Protection. Go to firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and check it out. When we come back, we will be speaking with Bob Radowski and Brady Scheckinger from Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners. And you're going to find out, are we going to be able to carry in those dreaded pistol-free zones here in Michigan? All right, this is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My name is CJ Coryell. Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Coryell. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. In this segment, actually the next two, we are speaking with Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners. We are speaking with Brady Scheckinger. You are the executive director, and then also Bob Rudowski, who is your education director, I believe. Both of you, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Thank you, Skip. I'm glad to be back. Glad to be here.
Okay, guys, I got the MCRGO e-newsletter this morning, and in the newsletter, you were talking about Senate Bill 584 and 4 other pro-gun bills that were passed in the state Senate last week. What I'd like to do is to give all my listeners, we'll start with Senate Bill 584 because that seems to be what I'm getting most questions on. Brady or Bob, whoever wants to field this, what exactly is Senate Bill 584? What does it do? And then we'll follow up with more questions.
Okay, I'll start with this one and then let Bob weigh in on the training portion. Basically, what Senate Bill 584 does is creates a general exemption to the concealed pistol-free zone that all CPL holders are legally required to abide by, with additional training. So any new or renewing CPL holder would be able to request a general exemption on their CPL with no additional fee paid to the county clerk. An advanced training class would be required. The details of that class are in the bill. Currently, the only people that can get that special box checked on the CPL are very limited classes of people: retired police officers, corrections officers, members of a sheriff's posse, private investigators, state court judges. Very limited list of people that can qualify for that general exemption. What this bill would do is give an opportunity to get that general exemption to any CPL holder.
And that was passed overwhelmingly in the Senate, correct?
That's correct. I believe the vote on it was 26-11.
26-11. Was it along party lines, or did we pick up any Democrats at all or not?
We picked up no Democrats. The Senate Democratic Caucus is actually that small in the Senate right now that they were only able to muster 11 votes in opposition. The Republican caucus almost unanimously voted for the bill.
What exactly is the prognosis for that? Or what should we say? A lot of people don't even understand the legislative process. What's going to happen now?
Sure. Well, the bill is about halfway through the legislative process at this point, and it moved very rapidly last week. Bob Rudowski is on the phone with me, along with Steve Doolin, another board member with MCRGO, testified in Senate Government Operations Committee last Tuesday on the bill. The bill was reported out of committee on Tuesday, went on the Senate floor on Wednesday, and then passed the Senate on Wednesday. Now it will head to the House. And because of the sausage-making power in the Senate, the House and the Senate will probably make some sort of deal on which House gun bills the Senate hears and which Senate gun bills the House hears. We expect this bill to be taken up in the House. The House Republican majority, the Republicans in the House tend to be more conservative, so we're not concerned about House passage. We believe this bill will eventually make it through the legislative process, and then it goes to Governor Snyder. And Governor Snyder is the big unknown, whether he'll sign this bill or not. He previously vetoed back in 2012 a much broader version of this bill. This bill is more restrictive than what the 2012 version would have done, but still with Snyder. Snyder has not been strongly pro-gun in the past. We don't know at this point what he'll do.
Yeah. Well, Brady, is there any type of reconciliation process between the Senate and the House that goes on?
Sure. If the version the House passes is different than the version the Senate passes, and it usually is on most bills, it goes back to the chamber that the bill originated from. If the Senate does not accept the House changes, then the bill will go to conference committee, where 3 members of the Senate, 3 members of the House are appointed as committee. They work out their differences in a closed committee and then send their agreed-on version back to the House and the Senate for acceptance. And normally a bill coming out of conference committee, both chambers accept it. Sometimes they don't. Usually the chamber that the bill originated from, which is in this case the Senate, will agree to the House changes that they've negotiated back and forth beforehand, so the bill doesn't even need to go to conference committee. But yeah, conference committee is the reconciliation process.
Brady, what changes are possible or that you might foresee in the House from the Senate version?
So, like I said, the House is a bit more conservative. House Republicans tend to be a bit more conservative than Senate Republicans. There were two amendments that were added onto this bill in the Senate after the bill was introduced that have some controversy behind them. One of them bans the intentional display or open carry of a pistol in a concealed pistol-free zone. Basically, what the bill says in that amendment is if you're going to carry in a pistol-free zone with a concealed pistol license, your firearm needs to be. There are questions about that amendment, particularly on the intentional display portion. For example, somebody pocket carrying, if the butt of their gun is sticking out, or the grips of their gun are sticking out of their pocket, is that intentional display? The other amendment that was added on the Senate floor just before the vote adds a new class of pistol-free zone to that section, MCL 2850, and that's any property owned by an airport authority. So we all know that the secure portion of airports right now is a pistol-free zone. Once you get past TSA, you can't have a pistol on you. But we can legally carry in any portion of the airport before you get through that TSA check. This bill would ban carry on any airport property, and that's problematic, especially with travelers coming into Michigan through an airport.
Yeah. I don't think I don't really that one. I mean, if you're going to pick someone up at the airport, basically, well, could you even carry inside your vehicle then, or not?
Well, you'd be able to carry in the parking lot because that's already exempted in state law, and it doesn't change that exemption. But still, we don't like the amendment either. We certainly don't want to add a new pistol-free zone in a bill that is supposed to be offering us more protection from people carrying illegally in pistol-free zones.
What about the open carry amendment? Because I thought I saw something from Michigan Open Carry that said they were withdrawing their support on the bill because of that amendment. Did I imagine that, or have you heard anything about that?
No, that is true. Michigan Open Carry was originally supportive of the bill. When that amendment was added on in the S1, they withdrew their support. And their mission is to protect and promote and advance open carry. We certainly don't blame them for that. We recognize that the vast majority of people that would carry in a pistol-free zone with a concealed pistol license prefer to carry concealed. But we don't want to take away the ability that exists right now through that open carry exemption to open carry. Most of our members of MCRO would prefer to carry concealed. So we're acting in their interest. We would support an amendment in the House that gets rid of that ban on open carry, but we're going to continue to support the bill and to work with the bill sponsors and work with House leadership to get this bill through regardless, just because it means a much safer environment for anybody that is in a pistol-free zone.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Bob, I want to get you in on this conversation. One of the questions that I always get in my classes when we talk about Senate Bill 584 is, well, what about the training aspect of it? And they always ask, well, what about a previous advanced course that I've taken? Will that be grandfathered in? Can I use that, or do I have to take a whole new class again?
Well, in the language as it's currently, there are a couple of things directed to that. One, it does say that if you've taken an advanced class, like NRA's personal protection outside the home, and it meets the statute, an additional 94 rounds fired, and is 8 hours in length or more, and that class is, then it meets the criteria. Or using your advanced CPL class, the same thing is true. If I remember right, it's 250 rounds, so it exceeds that standard. It's 8 hours in length. So either of those appear to qualify. The caveat, as I understand it, and Brady's much better with the legislation than I, is in the last 5 years. And to be entirely honest with you, I have a little bit of concern about that. I mean, I know you've taught many classes, and you're well respected as an instructor. Why you're not an MCRGO instructor, I don't know. We should talk about that, but I are. Anyway, the concern that I have, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, you teach a CPL class, any CPL class, and the student takes the class, and then they'll get their CPL. And as we're both very well aware, many of them, not all, but many of them They carry quite a lot, but they never practice again. Or if they practice, it's very, very limited. Same thing is true with the NRA outside the home class. I'm an NRA training counselor, among other things, and I have taught that outside the home class as well as certified people to teach it. And the big problem up until now has always been getting people to actually take it. We're hoping with the added cookie of being able to apply for the exemption based on the class, we'll see an uptick in advanced training. Problem is, and I'm not familiar with your class beyond what I've read about it, so I won't speak to that. We need, and MCRGO is developing a class that is very specific to coming from concealment, and we use the term true concealment. And the reason we do that is, again, the NRA's programming is outstanding, and anybody that's taken any NRA firearms class knows that. There's very good stuff. Unfortunately, it's also quite generic because it has to apply to all 50 states. Well, true concealment, what we're talking about is where are you actually going to conceal the firearm, and then we want to train with you from that point of concealment. Not everybody wears an outside the waistband with a cover garment, which is the entire function of outside the home. So this seems important. Now, again, as the legislation is currently worded, I would be hard-pressed to say that a person that's taken outside the home or any advanced class, and there are a number of them out there, as you know, that they wouldn't qualify. I think they would. Same thing with instructors, like you yourself as a CPL instructor in good standing and teaching, based on my read, and I'm not a lawyer, you would qualify for that exemption even though you may or may not have had that additional training. I suspect you have, but that being the case. So this is kind of, in my opinion, a bit gray.
Who will give have the final authority to say, okay, we accept this certificate, we don't accept the other one? State police, county clerk, any idea?
I suspect county clerk, wouldn't you think, Brady?
Well, yeah, the county clerk would initially, and then they appealed to the state police with any questions. Right now, there are 3 agencies that are accepted for training in Michigan, and they're the NRA, USCCA as the national agencies, and then MCRGO as the state agency. We will work with the Michigan State Police to make sure that they feel that our program meets their standards at the time that we're implementing it. So,
all right, fantastic. We're out of time for this segment, but we're going to come back and we're going to talk about these other 4 pro-gun bills that are in the legislative process right now. Folks, while you're away, you got 2 minutes. Go ahead, check out our sponsors, Elite Firearms and Training and Firearms Legal Protection. But then also go to mcrgo.org and check out Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners and see what they're all about. And hey, go ahead and click on join. All right, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Felix Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want to talk to you about keeping your kids safe around guns. I've never been a big fan of trigger locks, but I have to tell you, I have found a product called Child Safe One. It's a trigger blocker, not a trigger lock, and it works fantastic. I tried it out on my kids, and they could not get the Child Safe One off the training gun. I gave them 5 minutes. I sat there and I watched them, and they couldn't do it. Folks, I am satisfied, more than satisfied, that my kids are safe around Child Safe One. Here's the good thing about it. I can get that lock off the gun in under 2 seconds, but my kids can't even figure out how it works. Child Safe One is a win-win for everyone in the family. My wife's happy because she knows the guns are secure. My kids are happy because they're safe. And I'm happy because when the wolf comes a-knocking, I've got that gun cocked, locked, and ready to rock in less than 2 seconds. So go to globalgunsafety.com and get Child Safe One today. That's globalgunsafety.com. Check it out now and tell them the Home Defense Show sent you.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection. This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and protect your family now. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. We are speaking with Bob Brodowski and with Brady Scheckinger from Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners. And we've been speaking about Senate Bill 584. Now I want to segue into the other pro-gun bills. And I believe there are there 4 bills, Brady?
Correct. 4 other bills other than Senate Bill 584 passed the Senate this past Wednesday. One of the bills, Senate Bill 585, is a companion bill to Senate Bill 584. It just includes technical implementation changes in the law in a different section of law. So there's really no meat to that one we need to discuss. But yes, there are 3 other bills, including one that paired with Senate Bill 584 makes it much more dynamic. And I'll start with that one, which is Senate Bill 586, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
What Senate Bill 586 would do is define intermediate school districts, community colleges, public libraries, and other public authorities. And what other public authorities means are things like public bus systems that are run by a public body that's established by an elected local unit. We would define these as local governments for the purposes of preemption. Some of you may be aware that there have been probably a half dozen lawsuits over the past 10 years about whether some of these venues are local units of government or not. Right now, there are 2 cases pending in the Michigan Supreme Court about whether school districts are local governments or not for the purposes of preemption. And what preemption means is that if a local government is preempted from doing something, it means that only the legislature can enact law or enact ordinances regarding behavior in that area. So right now in Michigan, we have local government preemption. And what that means is that only the state legislature can enact firearms laws. Your city, your township, your county, none of those local units are able to enact their own ordinances that go above and beyond what state law restricts for firearms. And the reason we have that is to avoid a patchwork of different regulations concerning firearms around the state. Well, the problem we've had is that a number of school districts have started passing their own firearms restrictions, and they're different for every school district. Some school districts may not allow open carry at all. Some may be perfectly fine with open carry. Some require you to register at the office if you're coming in for a parent-teacher conference or a game or picking up your child. And these vary around the state, and it's very difficult for a sealer to understand what the regulations are, often because they're not any signing at the entrance of one of these local units. So what school districts are local units of government. School districts cannot make their own regulations regarding firearms, and school districts have to follow state law.
So basically, it's an expansion of the Michigan Firearms Preemption Law then.
And I wouldn't even call it an expansion, it's a clarification of it.
Okay.
It's saying that these places that most of us would already consider local units of government are indeed local unit government.
Okay. Now, the follow-on question to that then, I know Wayne State University, MSU, and U of M, apparently according to the Michigan State Constitution, they can enact their own firearms laws. I've never understood why that's the case. Will that affect that at all or not?
The point you just made is something that is in contention, and we actually don't agree with it. Michigan's Constitution gives the University of Michigan, Michigan State University, and Wayne State University autonomy in how they run their institutions. Our interpretation is that autonomy only applies to the educational process. Several of those universities, particularly Wayne State and the University of Michigan, believe that it gives them broad autonomy that makes them basically legislatures unto themselves, that they are exempt from many of the laws that the state legislature passes, and that their elected boards basically become mini legislatures. We don't agree with that, and we are currently involved in a lawsuit against the University of Michigan on firearms issues. But regardless, we did not put universities in Senate Bill 586 for the reason that if the universities prevail in court in the future, we don't want the entire bill to be struck down. We'll deal with that in the future in separate legislation.
Okay. All right. That makes good sense. Okay. All right. That's Senate Bill 586. What is the next one, Brady?
The next one, and it's near and dear to my heart, is Senate Bill 366. And what Senate Bill 366 would do is provide provisional CPLs for 18 to 20-year-olds. And under this bill, somebody that's age 18 to 20 would take pistol safety training just like any other adult would, and they would then go to the county clerk and apply for a CPL. It would be the same process, same cost as any other adult getting a CPL. That CPL would expire on their 21st birthday, and then they would go on to get their standard CPL. We call them provisional CPLs because we had to create a separate class to avoid jeopardizing Michigan's reciprocity with other states. So the one downside to having a provisional CPL for an 18 to 20-year-old is you're likely not to get reciprocity in most other states around the country, like you could if you were over 21, but it would grant you all the other same rights in Michigan that a CPL does.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, and this in no way reflects what I really feel about this. Most people, well, a lot of people would say, you know what, when I was 18 to 20, I did some really stupid things. And I think you've heard the phrase young and dumb. What do you say to people who counter with, listen, 18 to 20 years old, that's just not mature enough. That's when people make their big mistakes, is when they're, still young like that. They don't have the life experience, the wisdom, the judgment. How do you counter that?
Bob, do you want to take this one?
Sure. And you do hear that quite a lot. That's actually a good point. Here's the problem. Your 18 to 21-year-olds do, unfortunately, qualify for other things, like they can vote. They can join the military and put their lives on the line for this nation. Why would we say to them that they cannot defend themselves like everyone else that's an adult? The age of majority seems to be a moving target in this state. And yes, you're right. I am in that same group that did some pretty dumb things when I was 18. However, I also did some very smart things, like join the military. Mm-hmm. That being said, we can't lump people into groups. They would have the same training requirement as anyone else. They would have the same standards and responsibilities as anyone else, and they would be subject to the same penalty for the law for violation of those standards as anyone else. And I think because of the gravity of this particular topic, you're going to find that the people that actually go to the trouble to go through the class and apply for the provisional CPL, assuming it gets put in place, are also going to be people that understand the situation and how it is to be compliant with the law. CPL holders tend to be the most law-abiding citizens of any group. I don't really believe that that's going to be any different if that group includes 18, 19, and 20-year-olds.
Well, that's a good answer, Bob, and I agree. What branch of the military were you in?
United States Army, sir.
All right. Thank you for your service. I appreciate that very much. I agree with you on that. One follow-up question then. Would the provisional CPL holders be able to apply for the general exemption should that bill come into law?
They absolutely will. Yeah,
okay.
If both bills end up passing the law, the provisional CPLs would also include the opportunity to get a general exemption.
All right. Okay, fantastic. That leaves it.
Skip?
Go ahead.
The pushback that we're hearing about this legislation, of course, there's the open carry discussion. But the pushback that I'm hearing is actually from one of the senators in conference was that they were concerned that allowing a person to carry concealed in a pistol-free zone doesn't in any way guarantee that said person would actually engage in the fight if the worst happens. And what people aren't realizing is it's probably a very true statement. It doesn't create any legal obligation to get involved. What it does is it eliminates the perception that there's any such thing as a place that is a soft target. That's the real meat of this. That's the important piece.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. And let's face it, you and I are both instructors. Not everyone should intervene in every self-defense scenario simply because they may not have the ability to prevail. We all have different abilities. Some are good shots, some are bad shots. Some of us fall apart under stress. Some of us hold together. It's a personal decision that everyone has to make. And a lot of times you don't know what decision you're going to make until the bullets are flying. But hey, I get your point. Okay, Brady, what is the third and final bill?
The final bill that passed the Senate on Wednesday that we need to talk about is Senate Bill 527. And what Senate Bill 527 does is offers protection to foster families in Michigan that are also gun owners. Many people are probably familiar with the case in the UP from earlier this year where a foster family, I believe it was in the Marquette area or the Western Upper Peninsula, was actually had their children taken away, their foster children taken away when the department discovered that they were gun owners. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services has a policy in place that they treat gun owners as second-class citizens. They impose a lot of illegal restrictions on foster families that own guns. What Senate Bill 527 would do is not allow, it actually prohibits the department from using gun ownership as a criteria in foster placement. On the other hand, as a bone to the department, it also offers the department civil and criminal liability immunity for any acts that might occur from guns in those foster homes.
This whole legislative process is kind of fascinating to me because I'm kind of a black and white thinker. I go, well, okay, hey, this is the right thing to do. Let's just do it. But then when politics comes into play, there's a lot of other things that come up, like, okay, you give me this, well, what about this? And it's like you're haggling in the meat market to try and get the best deal. That's what MCRGO does well. You get the best deal that Michigan gun owners can get. And I appreciate that. I'm not good at that. I do not have that talent. So good job. I appreciate it, guys. Bob, before we go, Brady can attest to this. I have been trying to take an MCRGO instructor class for about a year now. The problem that I have is every time there's a class being taught, it spans a Saturday, and those are my instructor times. I'm almost always teaching a class on Saturday. So we are definitely going to do that. It's something that I've been wanting to do, and I guess I will just have to have my assistant teach a class so that I can go ahead and get MCRGO certified because I've heard good things about it. I know that it's an excellent program. So, Bob, you will be seeing me in the near future. Bob Radowski, Brady Scheckinger from Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners, thank you very much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Thanks again, Skip.
Okay. All right, folks. You got 4 minutes here. Head on out to mcrgo.org and check out their website. They're also on Facebook. And then sign up for their e-newsletter. It comes out every Monday morning. You need to know the new laws that have passed, the bills that are pending, so you can get involved in the legislative process. That's what MCRGO does really, really well. Okay, folks, this is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome to my dad's Home Defense Radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Concealed Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
This is Colonel Denny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. Now, that was pretty good last two segments with Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners. That Bob's a good guy, and he's a military vet, which puts him high on my list right off the bat. And, of course, Brady, he is knowledgeable, he knows what he's talking about, and every once in a while, he'll even laugh at my jokes. So, good guys, mcrgo.org. All right, now we've got the wrap up here. I'm going to tell you what I really think, guys. I have been thinking an awful lot about church security the past week or so. I haven't had much of a choice because the phone is ringing off the hook because people are afraid and they're worried about it. And quite frankly, they should be afraid. But my question is, where were you a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? It's not like this is the first church shooting we've ever had. We've been having church shootings, well, as long as we've had guns in churches, I suppose. But, there's no doubt that it is getting worse. I read an article just a few days ago by Greg Ellifritz. I like his writing. He does a pretty good job. He did a really good study on handgun calibers and how effective they are and what you should choose for yourself. He wrote an article called 10 Lessons Learned from the FBI Study on Active Shooters. All right, it says, last week the FBI released its most recent research report on active shooters in the United States. The 47-page report is quite informative and worth the time to read. The study looks at a very small and well-defined subset of mass shootings. According to the publication, and it's a PDF file, you can download it. If you can't find it, just send me an email at skipcoryell@hotmail.com and I will put you on the right path. It says this is not a study of mass killings or mass shootings, but rather a study of a specific type of shooting situation law enforcement and the public may face. Incidents identified in the study do not encompass all gun-related situations. Therefore, caution should be taken when using this information without placing it in context. Specifically, shootings that resulted from gang or drug violence, pervasive long-track criminal acts that could also affect the public were not included in this study. In addition, other gun-related shootings were not included when those incidents appeared generally not to have put others in peril, like accidental discharges and stuff like that. The study does not encompass all mass killings or shootings in public places and therefore is limited in its scope. Using this definition, the FBI was able to find 160 separate shootings that met the criteria over a 13-year period. The database of shootings formed the basis of the study. All right, here's what they found. Number 1, active shooter incidents are increasing. During the first 7 years of the study, an average of 6.4 incidents occurred annually. In the last 7 years of the study, that rate increased to 16.4 incidents annually. That almost tripled. It's almost tripled in the last 7 years. Number 2, more than 15% of the incidents involved shootings at multiple locations. I think the trend of mobile active killers will likely increase. Actually, that was the case in this last shooting in Sutherland Springs. He went mobile. There is currently no one in the police training field who is training officers how to deal with mobile killers. It's a huge hole in our collective preparation efforts. Number 3, the killers initiated the assault with the killing of a family member in almost 10% of the attacks. Police officers need to do a well-being check on the suspect's family as soon as he identified. Well, that's true. In fact, in this Sutherland Springs episode, we think he was looking for the mother-in-law because that's where she attends church. I'm guessing that he was intending to leave there and go to her home and kill her. Stephen Williford changed his plans. Number 4, the majority of incidents, 56%, ended by the shooter's own initiative. That means that the events happened so fast that police or armed citizens did not have a chance to intervene. The idea that armed citizens can keep an active shooter bag full of emergency gear in the car, escape the building where the shooting is taking place, grab the gear, and get inside in time to stop the killing is absolutely ludicrous for the majority of these encounters, and I agree with him. These shootings are come-as-you-are events. If you don't have the gear in your person to stop the killer, you won't be a factor in the termination of the shooting. There's just not time, folks. Number 5, unarmed citizens ended a significant number, 13% of these events. Armed citizens and off-duty cops ended far fewer, 4%. Wow, unarmed citizens. These events tend to take place in locations where citizens are prohibited from carrying guns. If you spend time in such a location, how are your empty-hand fighting skills? Make an honest assessment of your abilities and improve them if they need some work. Number 6, only 1.3% of the shootings involved more than one shooter. The idea that cops need to go in with a team of officers to engage multiple suspects isn't tactically sound. It takes a comparatively long time to round up a posse of 4 or 5 officers to make entry. During that time frame, more people will be getting shot. Future efforts at active shooter training should be based on single officer responses rather than quad or team entries. I agree with him. Every time you hear a gunshot, someone just died. Number 7, the majority of the shootings take place in a business. Almost 70% of those shooters were not employees or former employees at the business they shot up. Be alert for any signs of violence or mental instability in your coworkers. If you are a police officer, the majority of your active shooting training should take place in office buildings. Schools and churches are common locations of violent events, but active shootings at these locations occur at roughly half the rate of those in commercial businesses, like the mall. Number 8, almost half of the officers who were shot while responding to active killer incidents were shot outside by killers who were in open spaces where the shooters were moving through streets and between buildings. Police and armed citizen active shooter training must include military tactics such as bounding overwatch, which covers safe movements outside when under fire. Okay, number 9. This is a huge factor in response tactics. In 64 incidents where the duration of the incident could be ascertained, 44 of 64 incidents, that's 69% of them, ended in 5 minutes or less, with 23 ending in 2 minutes or less. That's not much time, folks. Speedily moving towards engagement with the shooter should be the primary guideline when teaching active shooter response tactics. We simply don't have the time to waste. Number 10, police departments and other training organizations need to provide armed and unarmed citizens with quality active killer training classes. In this study, 13% of the incidents were stopped by courageous unarmed citizens, not police. These citizens should be provided training to better handle such volatile situations. You know, folks, 13% of the time, you had to stop them with just your bare hands. That's a travesty. Get rid of these pistol-free zones. Just think how many of these shootings, these mass murders you could stop if you had the right tool for the job. And that is why it is so important that Senate Bill 584 gets passed and signed into law by the governor. I don't know if it will. I just don't trust the governor on this one to do the right thing. But part of it depends on us, doesn't it? What is to stop you right now from calling up your state senator or your state rep and say, hey, I want you to vote for Senate Bill 584. Give me a chance to defend myself in these pistol-free zones. It's crazy for the government to disarm us in a place where we are most at risk. All over the state of Michigan, our government has set up massacre zones where people can come in and kill indiscriminately without being stopped. They know they have at least 5 minutes before the cops get there. And if you're out in the country, it's even longer. So you can't defend yourself. Senate Bill 584 would give you a fighting chance. You just take the extra hours of advanced training, which, quite frankly, folks, you need it. Okay, don't tell me that you don't. And I know some of you are saying, well, I shouldn't even have to have a permit. It should be permitless carry. That's what the Constitution says. Yeah, I know all that, and I agree with you. But it's not the case, and it's not going to happen anytime soon. Besides, with great right comes great responsibility. I know that you're not trained like you should be, and you know it too. We all need more training. Never back away from more and better training. Senate Bill 584 will make it better than it is right now. I do not like going into these places by myself, much less with my family. Now, this Stephen Wilford, the plumber, the hero, he did a great thing. He could have died doing that. I went online and I was looking at different comments from gun people in response to this. And some of the comments that just really irked me, that said something like that, listen, if I'm in one of those mass shootings and I can get out, I'm going to get out. I don't care if I have a gun or not. I'm getting out and I'm not going back in. I have a problem with that. I mean, it's one thing if you're a child or if you're 78 years old, you can't function, you can't walk, you can't run, you're unarmed. But if you're armed and you're trained, you're an able-bodied person, and your choice is to run away, knowing that every time you hear a gunshot, someone just died, maybe a child, shame on you. You're a coward. You are a selfish, blithering coward, and I have no respect for you whatsoever. America does not need more cowards. We have a coward surplus right now. We don't need, nor do we want, any more cowards. We don't need narcissists. Narcissists need not apply. Senate Bill 584 will arm you in these pistol-free zones. It will give you a fighting chance. But the gun is just a tool. 13% of the time, according to the FBI, the bad guys stopped by an unarmed citizen. But you know what? They weren't unarmed. They weren't defenseless. You know what they had? They had courage. They had courage. They had a warrior mindset. They had the will to live, the will to fight, and the will to protect other innocent people. That's what America used to be all about. What happened to us? What happened to America? Do not run and hide. Stand up. Fight. If a plumber can do it, so can you. All you need is courage and a skill set. If you don't have the courage, search your heart and find it. If you don't have the skill set, get the training. Anyone can get training. Courage and a skill set. That's what America needs today, more than anything else. All right. Well, folks, we are just about out of time. Again, go to mcrgo.org. Check them out. Check out Elite Firearms and Training in Middleville, Michigan. Check out firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical. Get yourself protected in case you have to use your firearm for personal defense. Well, okay, folks, that about wraps it up for this week's episode of the Home Defense Show. Until next week, remember, your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember, God, family, country, in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train, stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Coryell. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!